Solutions, right? We want to look for solutions. People pay you to fix things and come up with solutions. And we want to look for what is the solution. And again, most of the time, stress, putting out fires is right in front of our face, and we miss the solutions. They're on the outside. I was just telling a story outside because we had a little laptop issue with the mic sticks. It wasn't taking onto the laptop for a presentation. I said, well, why don't we just use the laptop that Leslie has? Works on hers. Let's just switch it over. Well, it just reminded me of this story of a truck that got stuck under an underpass. And the truck was stuck under the underpass. They called the police. They called the firemen to get it out. Nobody can get it out. And little Johnny's in the car with his dad. And Johnny hops out of the car. And everybody's surrounding this. They're figuring, how can they get this big fire truck out? And Johnny looks right at it and says, why don't they let the air out of the tires? Real simple. See, some of the easiest challenges, some of the most difficult challenges have simple solutions. But when we're caught up in that area of stress, of panic, of the bullets are flying and you're ducking, you can't see that. Think about this. You've all seen somebody and you said, I know that person. I know that person. And it's driving you nuts. You can't think about it. And then you go to home that night and you go, oh my gosh, that was Mary. She was my next door neighbor. Anybody have that happen? It's called pattern interruptions because there's so much going on right now that you're being interrupted and sidetracked and having to multitask and stuff and you're not getting it all done. And it causes stress. So we want to lay out what can we do, how can we look at things, and when we're having stress, you all have kids here, give yourself a timeout. Have you ever needed a timeout? Like you want to go out of the office and go, ah, just scream, let it all out, like every day sometimes, right? See, but that's good because you want to settle in. Why? Because the tongue has no eraser. And when you're upset, you do the thing that is the worst. You hit out at the first person you see, whether it was them or not. It's just the way we react when we're upset. So we want to start to become more responders. So the solution is just the process of fixing things. We need to look for solutions and not focus on what hasn't happened, because there's nothing you can do about that. So, for instance, how many of you have had a situation where people play the blame game? Well, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. Do you know why? It's really simple. See, when I was growing up, if I did something wrong, I got punished and sent to my room. Now, how many of you were just children in big people's clothes? So when something goes wrong, you don't want to be punished and sent to your room. That was a bad thing. It wasn't me. My family, it wasn't me. It wasn't my sister. It wasn't my brother. It was Yehudi. Yehudi was this invisible person who did everything in the house that we would not claim. And what I found out about that was that, you know why people were lying and not, accepting responsibility? Because they didn't want to get punished and sent to their room. See, I want to remove that angle because I don't care what's happened. What I want to do is fix it and prevent it from happening again. Don't you? Because these things are going to come up over and over and over again. So you need to look at what happened here, what you're not going to do, and the only way we change is when it's so painful that you just can't stand it, then you change. If you not want to go on a diet and you say, I'm going to go on a diet maybe one day, when that button pops off your pants, you're like, pain, I'm going to start working on myself. And most people don't move away from anything until it's too painful. And you don't have to do that. You have to look for the different solutions, brainstorming with your team, getting those opportunities together, because if we're focused on the solution, people focus on the solution. If we're focused on the blame, people are ducking for cover. And what I say to my team is, I don't care what's happened. What are we going to do to fix it and prevent it from happening again? And I will say that over and over so that they know I don't feed into the blame. There is nothing I can do about it. If I could go back and relive the last 30 years of my life, I might change a couple things. All I could do is look forward, which is exactly what you could do. So start looking for those solutions. And when you start to see people playing the blame game, well, it wasn't me, it was her, you have to get it. Who cares? It's not about that. It's about where we need to go. They will stop using blame over a period of time if they see that you're not focused on it. And here's the perfect example. For those of you who have had children and your child falls and starts to cry, or maybe the child just falls, and you say, are you okay? Then what happens? The tears just like outrageous. Now if you say, get up, you're fine, and you walk away, what do? They get up and walk away. So sometimes we're creating these issues and people feed into them. They recognize it. Why? Because they feel that type of behavior may get something for them, get them off the hook, etc. So don't buy into the blame game because it's one of the ones that you're just going to lose on a regular basis. Conflict is inevitable. You should want some conflict. Otherwise, things could get boring. Would you like if someone agreed with every single thing you did? I want somebody to be honest with me and say, no, you should have done that, or you could do this better if you want to improve yourself. And you've got to be willing to take that information in. See, how many of you believe in constructive criticism? Raise your hands. Okay. So let me give you a little constructive criticism, Kate. When I say that to you, what's the first word you hear? Thank you, Kate. What word do you hear when I say I'm going to give you some constructive criticism? What word? Yeah. Oh boy. How many people hear criticism? Raise your hands. How do you like to be criticized? I know one thing about people. When you make a mistake, who beats yourself up more than you? Nobody. Nobody can beat you up worse than you. So now I come over and say, oh, okay, let me give you a little constructive criticism. She doesn't like me. She doesn't hear a word I said. And now, the next time, she's not going to do it for me. And she's telling everybody else, this guy's a real jerk. So I want to do something a little bit different because I know when I make a mistake, the first thing that pops into my head is a word, next time. So I use something called LBs and NTs. Write this down, LBs and NTs. LB stands for like best, NT stands for next time. So when I might come over to Kate and I say, Kate, what I like best is you're diligent, you're a team player, you get the job done. Next time, I would do this. What do you like best? What are you going to do different next time? When she verbalizes it and she decides what she's going to do next time, she owns it. It's no different. You could be the best worker on this planet. If I am standing behind your back, how many mistakes are you making? Tons of mistakes. Some of us are sitting here and there's actually somebody behind our back. We're feeling that pressure because, so the stuff's going on at work. So I want to use my LBs and NTs just because I want to tell them what I like best. Next time, do this. What do you like best? Because if she doesn't own it herself, she'll make that mistake over and over and over again. And what do we want to do? We want to focus on the good. Go catch someone doing good. Every day, I try to find my staff to do something good and say something. Another technique that I will use, and I just started using it regularly, and it's been so effective, is I went and ordered a bunch of personal notes. Just says Dr. Rick Goodman at the top. I write notes and letters to everybody now. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Here's an article. You want to keep yourself top of mind. And people have gotten away from personal stuff. What are we doing? We're tweeting, we're texting, we're sending emails. Instead, it takes about 2 seconds to write, Dear Joe, appreciated meeting you. Thanks for talking to my mom last night on the phone. Dr. Rick. Now, if I send that to Joey over there, you got famous people in this room. I don't know if you know this. Joey, come over here a second, Joey. Come on. Joey over here works for Ultimate Software. He's an unbelievable guy. Joey is one of the most famous highlight players in the world. I'm not kidding you. I've lost so much money on this man. And I didn't realize, so we were at dinner last night, and I said, he said, yeah, I used to live in Spain. And he said, yeah, I played highlight. I said, oh, really? We used to love going to see this guy, Joey. My mom and I would go down, and we always bet on him. And I was about to say, I think it's fake sometimes. They drop that ball. It's like you're right there, and they drop the ball. And he says, it's me. I'm Joey. So I called up my mother. I go, Mom, you're not going to believe this. Remember Joey? She goes, oh, yeah, we used to bet on him all the time. I go, here, let's talk to him. Yeah? So we look at different things. How are you going to connect the dots? How are you going to look outside and bring solutions? That's my question. And remember, script these things out also. You want to start scripting things out. People think and hear things differently. So let's talk a little bit about that. Conflict is going to be inevitable, and your job, being able to handle the conflict constructively, is the key to your success. Your ability to confront is going to be directly proportional to your ability to be successful in life. So let me say that again, profound statement. Your ability to confront is directly proportional to your ability to be successful. You have to have a high level of confront. That means if you don't ASK, you won't GET. What is the worst thing that can happen? Someone says no and you're in the same spot you were 30 seconds before. But I guarantee you've all been in a place where you wanted something, you said, he or she's never going to go for it. They're not going to say yes, and they didn't. You could have been knocked over with a feather. So bring yourself back to those places. Start to ask and start to confront, why are these things happening? How can I help you to get over this hump? What can we do to do this differently? Start asking the open-ended questions where people have to give you an answer. Get them starting to think. Remember, sometimes we don't see how we respond to a situation. And the key is, are you willing to improve yourself if you don't like yourself? And that's key to growth. Doing things a little bit differently. Do you know right now, you guys are in the top 10% of all people in the world, that most people, once they graduate college, never attend a continuing education seminar, webinar in their whole lives? You guys are in the top 10%. I mean, that's amazing that you're here growing and spending your valuable time here, which means I've got to give you some more information. So let's keep going. It's considered one of the more difficult communication skills, so we know nobody likes conflict. Yet it's in front of us, and we have to learn how to master it. So I want you to think of it as almost a game. And that game is to get people to change their state. Conflict is good. So if we have a commitment to organizational goals and people are really involved, there's going to be conflict because two people are going to see something differently. And you're going to want to brainstorm those ideas because you never know when that golden idea is going to pop up. And it may come out of left field. And it usually comes after you're sitting there and you've got all these different things. So how many of you have brainstormed solutions for challenges before? Raise your hands, okay? How many of you have made this mistake? I've made it a million times. When, let's say we get somebody, Christina comes up and she says, well, this is my idea. And I say, good idea. And Kay will say, this is a good idea. And Bob will say, hey, this is a great idea. And then we come over to Heidi and I don't say great idea. What is she thinking? Her idea is not so good. I didn't like it. I stopped acknowledging because what was I doing? I was there judging. I was making the call as opposed to letting the group decide which is the best way to go. It's a common mistake we all do, you know. So I'll just put something up there. I'll just write up on the board. I was doing a job for Johnsonville Foods. You know Johnsonville Foods? Johnsonville bratwurst and stuff? Love them. I love it too. Well, do you know the secretary of the company walked up to the president 15 years ago. And she said, you know what we need? She said, we need to have a brochure to sell all of our products and stuff like that. He said, go ahead and do it. The secretary of the company is running an $8 million product line. Because she asked. She went in there and did the work. They were brainstorming ideas they couldn't figure out. And she said, I got this great idea. He said, go with it. So when you're brainstorming solutions on how to do things, throw it up there. Just throw it up there. And here's what I do. I do something called the fist of five. So you want to write this down. The fist of five is a consensus decision-making process. And it goes like this. If we're all in 100% agreement, we all raise our hands. So everybody raise your hands. Everybody raise your hands. Great. So you got your hands up. 5 fingers up means I'm 100% with me. And you put your hands down. Now I hold up 4 fingers. And 4 fingers means I'm with you. I'm not 100% with you. But I'm not going to prevent the team from going forward. There may be somebody up there with 3 fingers. And that means I'm on the fence. Now it is going to be my job to find out that WIIFM. You listen to that radio station, right? 97.3 on your dial, WIIFM. What's in it for me? That's what they want to know. I have to show them how it's going to be better for them, make life smoother. We're going to have a learning curve, but it's going to continually improve. So I've got to kind of address that issue. And then there's that person with a fist up. And the fist up means no way, I'm not going to do it. Now, here is the key phrase when we are getting consensus with our teams and we're brainstorming a solution, a conflict, and it works like this. It says, can you live with it? See, I found something else out. Some of you may not like things. They may not be the best things that you have to do at work, but you could live with it. When we have a conflict that's based on someone's moral fiber or something goes on with them, you can't overcome that. Now, the reason why I do the fist of five is some people are introverted, some people are extroverted, and it's just what's so. There's nothing right or wrong with it. My biggest concern is the people that don't talk. Then you don't know where they stand. So we all had to learn to raise our hands in school, didn't we? So now when I do the fist of five, I have a visual. I know who's 100% with me. I know who's with me and not preventing me from going forward. I know who's on the fence, and I know who's against me. My concern is not with the people that are completely with me or the people that are not going to prevent me from going forward. My focus is the people on the fence and the people against me. Those are the people that I've got to shift over in order to get the process moving, because it takes one person to stop a project. And sometimes they'll stop it because of different reasons. When we were doing the merger with Boeing and McDonnell Douglas, there were 2 supervisors that they both were baseball coaches. And one of the kids, one of the dads, his team was really good, and the son was pitching, and the other kid's team wasn't so good, and they ran up the score like 25-3, and the supervisor was upset. Well, he held up production in the plane line. He wouldn't move things through and sell it to the other supervisor because he was mad because his son got beat. These things happen all the time. So we want to be able to address them in a way that's going to be good and productive. It could be challenging and stimulating. So like I say, make conflict resolution a game. It's like getting someone to put a smile on their face, changing their state. Whatever you can do, because if they're in that non-working state, they're not going to be motivated, and you have no shot at motivating them. Conflict is also going to be addressed, on the other hand, could be destructive if we make it personal. So the one thing that I always say in our organization, business is business, it's not personal. Now, does that always make sense to the person sitting across the table? They still feel it's personal. So I want to make sure to not address those names, especially if I say you or I use their name. All of a sudden, they're getting defensive. They're feeling like they're going to be attacked. So defenses drive up. They don't hear one thing that you say, goes in one ear and out the other, and then you turn around, you don't like them. So I want to be inclusive about handling the conflict. And I want to find out what has to happen in order for you to get the job done, or what has to happen in order for you to be satisfied, or for us to fix this. When I ask that question, what has to happen, what they do is they give me their rules. And you all have rules. Your rules say, I do this because of this, or I won't join this organization because of this. You have rules. We call them rituals. How you start your day is your ritual. I always say you could spell the word Smith, S-M-I-T-H, S-M-Y-T-H, S-M-I-T-H-E. I don't care how you spell it as long as you could say Smith. But we all do things a little differently. And that's your process and your ritual to get things done. Sometimes it comes in conflict with the people that are managing you. They may do things a different way. So we want to find out exactly how we move forward, what we are able to do, and how we work. And a lot of that comes down to our corporate culture. Whether it's a communicative corporate culture, a team type of culture, or maybe it's just a person at the top, dictatorial, authoritative culture. So all those different things are going to play a role in how you're going to handle conflict. The better we develop our skills, obviously, it's going to contribute to good health, because when you're stressed out and you're going to work and your blood pressure's up, or you just had an argument with the kids and the whole day is going to go downhill, you're going to show up at work and the first person to ask you a question, you're going to growl at them. And they didn't do anything wrong. They were just that person that was there to get it. Okay? So some of the ingredients of conflict are values. Like I said before, if you have a value-related conflict, that's something that goes against their moral value. Let's say you decided you're going to open up on Sundays, and a lot of the people, that's their day off. They want to spend it with their families. That person says they're not coming in. You are not going to be able to overcome that person's value. When we get involved in the hiring process, one of the things I say to people is, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Now, if this person's right out of college and they say, well, I want to eventually run the company and do this, and I know family-owned business, not going to happen. So I want to see values, because you can't overcome the value issue. Can't do it. It's almost, I won't say it's impossible, it's improbable to move people, because that's someone's core values. The values and beliefs, they're considered whole important, okay? Serious conflicts are going to arise when we start to address people's values. People will leave you. They will, or they may show up and then they will sabotage you. Anybody work with backstabbers? Okay? So the silent killers. So you've got to look at how to establish rapport with these people. Conflicts are also going to arise when one refuses to accept that the other party has different values. And that's what happens in the country, in America. That's why we get consensus and we ask the question, can you live with it? Because if we take a vote, what happens? The majority wins, the minority loses. Does the minority want to follow along? No, they lost. They felt like they didn't have a say-so. Also, if you're dealing with decisions within your team, you must make sure that everybody on the team has a say-so. Because the one person who may have been on vacation or not showed up or didn't have an opportunity to say so, that's the first person to sabotage you. Whether they like the idea or not, because they haven't been included. The companies that grow the biggest are the companies that include the people in decision-making. They ask the frontline people, because those people know how to do it. When I set up team building, self-directed work teams at McDonnell Douglas and Boeing in St. Louis, the first thing I did was say, you guys know what's going on. I had people in mahogany row. So I wanted the people that did the job to be empowered to run the job because they know more than the people that are disconnected. And that's how we built that company where they could merge and move forward quickly because we empowered the people. And that was after they came off of a 99-day strike. So imagine the conflict of a 99-day strike. I showed up, and 2 days before I got there, the vice president of the company said, I can hire people from 7-Eleven that could do your job. Now, if you've been building jet fighter planes and missiles, and someone says, I can hire the guy who made the Slurpee and the Big Gulp to do your job, would you be happy? I thought the first day, I said, listen, you guys are going to be empowered. We're going to allow you to make decisions. I walked out of there. If I drank a cup of water, it was just spewing out from the bullet holes. But it took references. We had to change their references first. In order to get someone moved forward, you have to change their references. And your references are like the top of a table. So the top of a table is kind of flat here. So here we got the table. Your top of the table is your experience. And the legs of the table are your references, okay? If you've had a number of negative references, you're going to have a negative experience. And if you've had a number of positive references, you're going to have a positive experience. Does this make sense? Right? So how do we change all these people coming off of a strike, negative, 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 okay? Well, we have to give them a positive. We have to give them something that they're going to be able to achieve and feel good about themselves. So what I did was I instituted a program which I didn't know was around. And the program was a program of giving people benefits and giving people commissions on saving money. So what we found was there were 80,000 rivets used in a jet fighter plane, and these rivets were solid. They cost about $2.25 a piece. And these guys came up with an idea, and they said, Rick, listen, we've been testing these other rivets, and they're hollow. They cost about $1. They're lighter. They're more compliant. I think this will work. Well, 80,000 rivets, they saved millions of dollars in rivets. Well, the team submitted their response, and what happened back in the day was the supervisor would say, no, this won't work. The supervisor would then take the idea, submit it themselves, and get the money. Well, when I found out about this, I'm like the little guy for obvious reasons. So I decided I wanted to go and help them out, so I fought for them, and each one of these guys got a $10,000 bonus. Well, hey, all of a sudden we changed one of the legs of their table, and we gave them this positive leg. But they said, Rick, this is not going to last. They're going to, still do the same thing. I said, let's come up with another idea. So we came up with an idea on how to mentor people, and that was in the missile panel. And the missile panel is a panel that you put together that goes inside the missile. And there was one woman whose cycle time was like 4 hours. She could bang it out. And another guy was like about 24 hours. So we set up a mentoring program where this woman would just follow the superstar for a week, not doing anything, asking, observing, writing down. See, most people are visual. If we could see it, touch it, and taste it, we got it. If they just tell it to you, you can't really see it. Then the next week, we gave her a panel to do. And she was able to meet back with that person 3 times a week in the second week for 1 hour a day. Why? Because that superstar is not going to be 100% productive if someone's following them around, and they get stressed out. So what we're doing is basically pushing you out on the diving board, pushing you off into the deep end, but we have a life preserver around you. You're not going to drown. And then in the third week, they're on their own. They're allowed to meet back with that mentor 1 time, 1 hour, as agreed upon by both of them. Cycle time dropped down to 8 hours from 24 because they saw it happening. It built the team. Now that new employee who's just been onboarded has faith, confidence, and belief in the system. We've just changed their reference again to a positive reference, and boom, what happens? More positive references, we change the experience. That's what it's going to take. It takes that with your children. It takes that with your business. It takes that with everything that you do. You've got to start to focus on how do I change their references, because that's the only way it's going to change their experience. So how many people here have teenagers? Raise your hands. Okay. So for those that have teenagers, I know that you're going to make a comeback, okay? Well, my wife was very sick. She had cancer for 8 years of our 10-year marriage. And she said to me, you really need to get out. You need to go somewhere with your daughter, take her away, because guys focus on their sons. And, I go to all the ball games with my son. He's seen all the players and all that stuff. Well, I decided I was going to take her away. And I was going to take her away for 24 days to Europe by myself. And I was going to write a book about it. She's 16 years old. It was called The Dad's Guide to Traveling with a Teenage Daughter, Generation Y. Like, why would you do it, right? But here's the crux. She couldn't bring her cell phone or computer. Ooh. She had to deal with me. Well, as we went through Europe and we had different experiences, pretty crazy experiences, 1:30 in the morning, we're walking through Florence, Italy, and she grabs my hand. She said, Dad, we make a great team. It was the best thing I ever did. She came back. I said, let's see what we both wrote. She wrote magnificently. And the book became her book. It became Jamie's Journey Travels with My Dad. So who's got a 16-year-old here? You do? Here you go. You will make a comeback, Jennifer. What she does is she gives advice to other kids. Hey, you know when your dad's annoying? Hang in there. You may learn something. And then there's my revelations. Make your plans and be flexible and break them. Because the night before we left for Europe, she called me up and she said, Dad, no offense. Have you ever gotten a no offense line? No offense, but I want to hang out with my friends. I had to rebook a hotel, change a flight, because I thought I was going to be there, help her get through this. No. We're so close now. She just called me a few minutes ago. She calls me every day, looks after me. We have a conversation now. And that's a lot different than we had before. And it was just about doing it. And you know what? I was on this Mom and Me, momandme.com. It's a worldwide talk show. She satellites it out. And good show. I thought, well, I'll go on that show.